Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to continue our look at Full Metal Wall by having a look at a pair of Pokemon. And we're pairing them up, partly because they're both colourless Pokemon, but mostly because they both serve a very similar purpose. We have a pair of fairly disruptive colourless Pokemon, so I thought we should have a little bit of a look at them as a pair. I am referring specifically to Fearow and Purugly. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So if we start off with Fearow here, 100 HP on a stage 1, frankly low. Retreat cost to 1 is somewhat nice. Resistance to fighting I do like. Having said that, you will still get one hit KO'd by Buzzwole when you've got 4 prizes remaining. And although Lycanroc GX will in theory fall 10 damage short, we all know that at this stage they're going to be playing Diancie Prism Star, so actually it's really not that amazing. I suppose against a Jet Punch, it's all right. Weakness to lightning, pretty bad, with stuff like Electro Power running around. Honestly, there's a whole bunch of stuff like Jolteon GX, which are going to have a pretty easy time against you. So, yeah, not a fan of the basics here. And of course, both these Pokemon are colourless Pokemon, so they have no extra tricks other than double colourless energy, which a whole bunch of Pokemon have. But what can it do for that double colourless energy? Well, according to the lovely Joe over at Cerebi.net, he brings us our translations today, and yeah, quite frankly, lovely dude, lovely website. Flip a coin. If heads, discard 2 energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, this is really, really nice. It's like double Crushing Hammer, except it's all or nothing. So it's not flip 2 coins, discard 1 damage for each heads. It is flip 1 coin, and if you get a heads, you get to discard 2 energy. The thing is, we all know how good Crushing Hammer can be, and we all know how good Team Flare Grunt can be. It's a supporter that doesn't need a coin flip, but it still discards an energy. So in theory here, we could be looking at a very nice attack. And of course, it does do a little bit of damage while we're here. It does do a base damage of 70. The thing is, 70 damage isn't really good enough. The thing is, right, let's talk about the damage just for a second. If we look at the damage here, 70 damage, add a choice band, 100. Well, that's 2-hit KOing something like a Buzzwole. But it's not 2-hit KOing a whole bunch of stuff like Gardevoir, for instance. And if you're not 2-hit KOing, that's a bit of a pain. I've often said if you can't 1-hit KO, 2-hit KO with Disruption, and this very much is 2-hit KOing with Disruption. And very good Disruption. But you're not doing very much. I mean, you're doing enough to KO Pokemon like Grubbin and Ralts, your evolving basics, the majority of evolving basics. And it is just for a double colourless energy, which is a single energy attachment. And that in and of itself is quite nice. And discarding 2 energy is good, because you may well come across a Pokemon that needs a bunch of energy, but doesn't have much energy acceleration. Something like Solgaleo Prism Star, for instance, will often come up. Let's say it's got a Duskmane Necrozma backing it up. They'll come along and use Solgaleo Prism Star to accelerate a bunch of energy, but that's it. That's their 1 energy acceleration for the game, essentially. So then Duskmane Necrozma's got a bunch of energy on, and they're going to discard them to use Meteor Tempest. But then again, you can just discard them early, and then they're going to be in a whole heap of trouble here. Or something like Pikachu and Zekrom is often going to want to use stuff like Tapu Koko to accelerate energy, along with Thunder Mountain, so that they can get their first attack, the really good one that accelerates more energy, going in a single turn. And if they just go Tapu Koko, Thunder Mountain, energy attack, it might be too late. But if they don't, and they just use Tapu Koko, then you can stop them here. There is a lot to like about this attack. It is decent disruption, but it does very little damage. And against Pokemon like Zoroark that attach 1 energy, or against decks like Malamar that accelerate energy, I don't think you're necessarily going to be doing enough here. And that should worry you if you're playing this card. Moving over to Purugly, this is not a flying Pokemon like Fearow. It is a normal Pokemon, which means you have a weakness to fighting and to all that good stuff like Buzzwole. Doesn't really matter, mind you, because it's got 120 HP, which is still very much in Zoroark range. And it's got a retreat cost of 3, which means it's just high enough to be annoying and just low enough that it cannot use buff padding to give itself an extra 50 HP. So the basics here are frankly very, very bad. And the attack for 3 energy, 80 damage, no! You're not hitting anything for weakness. You're still not 2-hit KOing everything with a choice band. You're not 1-hit KOing a bunch of non-GXs like White Kyurem. And it's not a single energy attachment, even with double colourless energy. It's just slow and awkward and underpowered and frankly not good. But we do have a very nice attack here. Double colourless energy, discard 1 random card from your opponent's hand. If this Pokemon evolved from Glameow during this turn, discard 1 more. Now this I can very much get on board with, and I've said a lot of not very nice things about these two Pokemon in this video, but this is the one thing between these two Pokemon that really does have genuine potential. Because here's the thing, if you're just discarding 2 cards from their hand, you're probably not going to get very far. But maybe you play a Judge. That could work. And maybe you play a Marshadow. That could work. And then all of a sudden you're putting your opponent down to a 2-card hand. And as long as you evolve from Purugly this turn, you're discarding 2 cards from their hand. Now it is at random, so maybe you hit what you want, maybe you don't. But it's better than letting them have the decision, because then they just save the Cynthia to get themselves out of it. The thing is, if you're putting them down to a 4-card hand, and you're discarding 2 cards from their hand, there is an excellent, excellent chance here that you are going to put them into a position where they don't have anything to do next turn. They don't have a supporter card ready to go, and they just sit there doing nothing. But you're doing 30 damage. And we keep coming back to downsides here. This is actually really nice disruption. And you could get them down to a hand of like 2, and then potentially next turn they draw 1 card, don't play it, they got 3 cards in hand, or if they do, they've got 2 cards in hand, and then you do this again and they've got 1 or 0 cards in hand. I am not saying there's no potential in terms of disruption here. There absolutely is potential in terms of disruption. But you're doing 30 damage. Even if we start looking at stuff like Choice Band and Shrine of Punishment, and assume that Shrine of Punishment is going to be out for a couple of turns, it's still not adding up to all that much, especially against non-GX Pokemon. And sure, maybe you use something like a Salazzle from Guardians Rising, get a bit of burn and poison on there as well, so you're putting on a bit more damage between turns. And heck, while we're here, why don't you add stuff like Seviper to do extra damage for poison between turns? But you see what's happening here? We're getting a little bit silly. We're adding on way too many Pokemon. The reality is this is decent disruption, but it's unreliable, and there's every possibility your opponent is just going to be able to get out of it. Because you're doing so little damage, they're going to have several turns to draw out of it. Which is kind of upsetting, if I'm honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I do have to give a quick shout out to Devolution Spray Z here. This is a card we looked at very recently. I'll pop a link in the description. And Devolution Spray Z essentially allows you to shuffle as many evolutions attached to one Pokemon into your deck as you like. So you can devolve Purugly here. It goes into your deck, so you have to find it again. But with stuff like Ultra Ball and Timer Ball, it's not going to be that difficult. And then you're in a great position where next turn, if you can find it, you can do it again. So there's plenty of stuff to like here. But both of these Pokemon, and the reason we do them both in one video is really simple. They fit into a very similar category. And the category we're looking at here is doesn't do enough damage, doesn't have any type-specific traits because they're both colorless, and decent disruption, which is not guaranteed, inherently unreliable, and might not work. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give the pair of them between 2 and 3 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. As much as I like a lot of things about these cards, and I do, I just feel like they're not going to work. Having said that, in the pre-release, Fearow is going to be an absolute monster. And that I like very, very much indeed. I should mention I've not made a big enough deal about this. Fearow is actually on a coin flip, just in case you didn't think it was, poor enough already. You can use Victini, but no. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. I think both of these cards have potential, but I don't think they're amazing. Maybe you do, though, or maybe you agree with me. Either way, I would love to hear from you, and the best platform to do so would be in the comment section. So go nuts, but please do remember the most important rule as always. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays for some more Wassie action. But by far the most important thing as always is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross and you've been watching PTCG Radio.